Welcome to Matters of the Mind. I'm Dr. Rick Adams, licensed psychotherapist and professor of psychology and human behavior. This podcast is devoted to helping you understand how the mind is shaped and influenced physically, psychologically, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. For more than 3 decades, I've been blessed with a front row seat into the minds of humanity. And now it's my desire to use that experience to help, aid, and assist you through this Matters of the Mind podcast. Today's Matter of the Mind topic is one that cuts across every area of life. So much so that through this series, I've been conversating with other clinicians, counselors, psychotherapists, and psychiatrists, and some of my former as well as current registered interns who actively are working in the field of behavioral health. Because this topic is one that I've chosen not to tackle alone. Today's Matter of the Mind topic is mental health. But instead of approaching it the traditional way, I've been asking my fellow clinicians 3 critical questions as it relates to mental health. Where are we? Where are we going? And where we're headed? Because I truly believe that where we are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually directly influences where we're going and ultimately where we're headed as individuals, families, and even society. So, today to help me unpack is someone you may know, and I would say you should know, Dr. Janie Lacy. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Lacy. Dr. Janie Lacy is more than just a therapist. She's a beacon of hope for those trapped in the cycle of toxic relationships and relationship trauma. She's also the visionary and CEO of Life Counseling Solutions. Dr. Lacy has dedicated her life to helping individuals break free from the chain of their past as well as step into the love they truly deserve. She also seeks to equip individuals with real tools to transform their lives. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Janie Lacy to Matters of the Mind. Welcome, Janie.
So glad to be here with you.
So, I want to first say, you and our paths cross a lot, whether it's at a conference or presentation, but this is the first time we get to actually sit down and talk mental health, okay?
Yes, excited
and I know
here.
you've been traveling a lot. You just came back from, I think, Tulsa.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
So I want to talk a little bit about that, but also I really want to just talk about and give our listeners indications of from your perspective clinically. Where are we, where we're going, and where we're headed as it relates to mental health? And what have you been seeing over the years, even recently? What have you been seeing in regards to mental health and individuals that you've come in contact with?
Well, I think that is such an important question, especially in the day and time that we're at. But when I think about where we are, I think about the statistic about 1 in 4 Americans have a mental health challenge or mental health disorder. But when I think about it, I think about that's something that's been reportable, whether it's an insurance company, whether it's a medical doctor, somewhere that statistic got into the system. But I think about those that are not actually in that statistic.
Correct.
The people who may have awareness, but they're not taking advantage of access. And we have more awareness than ever, as we were talking about before we started, right? People are ChatGPT-ing or Claude-ing or Gemini, whatever it may
Yes.
be, or they have apps now for AI bots where they can interact with you, or their social media, and everyone that has an experience now thinks they're a mental health professional. So we have access to information. It may not always be good access, but we do have access to information.
This is true.
But what I see is that we don't have access to high quality professionals. We have a lot of telehealth platforms like BetterHelp, Growth Therapy, all these other that can offer good quality services if you find the right clinician.
Correct.
So I remember when I had signed up for BetterHelp when it became a thing. And when it became a thing, I signed up as a client.
Okay.
And I had, as a clinician who was sitting as a client chair, I had the worst experience using BetterHelp. So what I think about, I'm just using that as an example, and everyone that uses BetterHelp is not necessarily a bad clinician.
This is true.
But I would put them at a level C or D. And what I mean by that is then people that have lower quality experiences may not return to mental health care because they've had these experiences. So they may return to, I'm Googling my disorder, or I'm, seeing that I'm following my favorite social media person. So right where we
finding out who's a narcissist or not.
Right. Everybody's a narcissist
Yes.
according to social media today. Right. So I think we have information overload, but we don't have the right information. And people are still struggling. So we see people are still struggling, even though we have access, even though we have awareness. We don't have the right access, and we don't have the right type of awareness that fits specifically, and I'm making a broad statement, people's situation. As we're mentioning, we can see all about the narcissist and all these other things, and every man is a potential abuser, right? We see these extreme messages, but yet it's not necessarily keeping the reader or the person who's seeking the information in their own wellness and in their own recovery. And I think what I see is that we're keeping people more with a victim mentality more than ever versus taking leadership of their own life. So that's where I think where we are. And I could probably go on and on about that, but I'll stop right there.
And actually, to some extent, let's keep it going, because that's what I've seen. And one of the things that I always try to let individuals understand is what are you getting? Okay, you're getting 20 and 30 years of experience right now.
Yes.
Over 55 years between the two of us. Okay, so you and I have seen a lot, and over the years, I have to admit that I too have come in contact with individuals who've actually been through therapy and been through counseling, and as we used to say, people are church hurt, but also I'm finding people who are counseling hurt.
Yes.
Okay, and for a moment, how do we reach those individuals? What would you say to those who have been injured, whether it's the church hurt individual or the counseling or therapist hurt individual? Because we know that there are therapists who, with the new rules, will date their own clients at times, okay, which is definitely not recommended, okay, unless there's years that have passed. However, what would you say to those who are in those situations to help them get that help? Because like you said, a lot of individuals don't go back or get the help that they really need.
Well, I would say two things. First, I want to talk to us clinicians.
Yes.
I think for us as clinicians, the ones who are in the healing and helper positions, we have to take care of ourselves.
Correct.
Because I know a lot of times what I see, and I believe you are as well, as a supervisor, as an intern, I'm a faculty member with the International Institute of Addiction Professionals. So I supervise those that are seasoned clinicians that are trying to get their CSAT credential. And what I see is we don't take care of ourselves. So I believe the best clinicians is that we take care of ourselves in the sense of, look, I'm going to Europe for a whole month, Dr. Adams, in July to reset my own nervous system.
Come on.
Right? So I think we have to take care of ourselves. So when someone is in front of us, we're not drifting off. We're not thinking about what we have to do. I know I sat in a client chair, and the clinician fell asleep on me. So I've had my own experiences as a client. And when I look back now, those are forgivable experiences. But I also now know on the other side of things is that that's a clinician who's burned out, who's not taking care of themselves. It's easy to be objective in someone else's life, but you're not living in your own. So I would want to tell us as clinicians is to first live a fulfilled life. We don't have to be perfect. We need to be far enough away from our clients, right? And no, we ain't gonna be dating clients. We ain't gonna be doing all that stuff, right?
Correct.
So we could keep a high standard. So that's the first thing, because we can give good care if we take care of ourselves, right? As we mentioned, yes, I got in at 2:30 and I got up at 5:30, but I'm here energetic because you know what? I take care of myself.
Correct.
So that's like a one-off, right? So then when I would talk about clients in particular, if they've had a not so good experience, what I would suggest at this point in time is to keep going. And you keep going by checking in your circle and see who has had a good experience.
Very good.
Get a referral or potentially follow people that are licensed, credential, have experience, follow them online if they do have a presence, and get to know them, their philosophy before you make the call. But to sit and suffer and to feel like, because I've had this experience at this church, or if I had this experience with this clinician and I'm not going to get back up, I think about the Gladiators, one of my favorite movies. You fall down in that arena, you may have a little moment where you're facing the dirt, but you get back up, right? So I would tell you to get back up and to not give up and just do things differently. Don't go to someone blindly. Either if you are following them on social media, or making sure that they're a vetted person.
Correct.
Or check in your circle. And sometimes if you ask people, have you been to therapy? Or have you found a good clinician or a good coach, right? Someone in the helping profession. And I think that's the second step. If they've already tried it and they have not had a good experience, but to continue on and suffer, and to not find good guidance and good clinicians who really want to help them find that next goalpost to their healing. So get back up, check in with your circle, and just try it again.
Right.
Simple as that.
Yeah. And you said something that I want to speak to really quick too, because when I work with interns, I'll say to them that there's a career and there's a calling. And it's not that one is better than the other. You just got to know which one you're in. Because if this is a career, know that you chose it. So you got to know when to get out.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, I like that.
However, if it's a calling, it's in you. You just got to know when to take breaks.
That's right.
Okay? Because that calling is God gifted, you know, and even if individuals will say, well, I feel called to do this. And I'll say, okay, that's great. However, you still got to take breaks.
Yes.
You still got to do some self-care. And to self-disclose a little bit in regards to what you're saying about clinicians. I remember when I first started, and I was very gung-ho and working a lot of hours, and a couple years in, we only at the time had 2 kids. And my wife said to me, it would be a shame for you to help all these families and lose your own. And then she walked out of the bedroom. And I had to sit with that. And I will say, as a clinician now of 30 plus years, that situation and that incident helped me to realize that who are you truly ministering to, and who should be your first ministry?
Yes.
God and family. And had I not had that experience, I don't know if I would be with my wife for 35, 38 plus years, because of that particular moment that she said that. And she said it so nicely and walked out, which let me know, okay, you in trouble, you know. But again, it's experiences like that I don't think clinicians have or even understand the importance of, because they're so quick to run away from trouble and run toward trouble when it comes to other people.
Yes.
But that's a really big thing that you said in regards to you got to take care of self.
We have to, and it's a dangerous place to be.
It is.
And you and I are speaking from experience,
Yes.
right? So 20 years a clinician, burned out, and was sick, didn't know what I was doing, right? So I speak from experience now, and now I know, and you know, that we have to fill our cup up so that when we're showing up on this podcast or with our clients, that we are showing up with our full self, that we can be present, and we fill our cup up first, so we give other people the abundance of us, and we can be present with them. And like you mentioned, right? Yeah, you may still have been married, but would your wife be satisfied? Right? Because there are a lot of people who are married, but they're not satisfied.
Yes.
So by her being a mirror and you being able to receive that and being able to have a course correction, and that's what we want to do for a lot of our clients, by us doing it ourselves first. Because it's real. We can be mission, or you mentioned calling or career, because you can be burned out in both.
Correct.
But with the calling, right, you have to take a break, and you have to be able to say, okay, well, how much of stuff in my life am I not taking care of? Because we have projection, we have transference, when we have a lot of people that are going from the board, and then we're having a fine line, especially close with the coaching community, of what's happening out there. So when I think about those that we're serving and where we want to go, like what I see every single day, in particular, because I work with a lot of high functioning women, is I see high functioning women who, as you mentioned, relationships are not going well, or that their kids they're having to call them 2 or 3 times before they actually hear their kid's voice because they're stuck in their phone, right? So we have to also be in a place where not only are we modeling it for our own families, but there's a ripple effect. A ripple effect is for our clients when they see, when they know when they're sitting with us, our clients know when they're sitting with us, if we really see them.
Right.
If we really see them, if we really understand them, or if we're just doing the clinical checkbox.
Correct.
And I think when clients see us, that surpasses any type of modality. I'm sure between the two of you, between you and I, we have multiple credentials, we have multiple, certifications and trainings. But the most important thing is that when we're with them, that they feel that we're with them. They feel seen, they'll feel understood, and they're leaving with a little bit more pep in their step than when they walked into our office. Because I still see clients in person. I like to see them in person.
Same here.
See them on virtual if I have to, which I have to do that. But I believe because that's a different experience. And, they're not distracted with the doorbell ringing, the dog barking, these other types of things. So I think where we are going is we're going to have a different level of access because we are having the conversation. We are having the conversation, but I believe we're having the conversation without the care. And that's
Okay.
what you and I are talking about is our presence, how we're taking care of ourselves. And then you and I are both mentoring other therapists. We're speaking
Correct.
truth to them. And as you mentioned, I think is a huge, it's better than any coach that you can hire. And that's having a wife that can be a mirror to you and that you
Yes.
lean in and you
Yes.
lean in and you're
Yes.
listening to the feedback because we know that people can have a public self and a personal self.
Correct.
And if they're public self, I believe that we shouldn't have any of that. We should be as close to our private self as we are in our public self. And the person who's going to know that are those people in our circle in that sense.
Correct.
So as I was mentioning to you this morning when I was driving to driving here and my son was like, "Are you tired?" I'm like, "This is part of the adventure, baby." Right? We have a little bit of times where
Correct.
we're going to be overloaded, but you know what? When I get home this afternoon, I take a 2-hour nap, right?
That's it.
So we
That's
have
it.
to take care of ourselves
yeah.
in that sense and not feel guilty about it because there's this hustle culture that we live in. And if doesn't matter what career you're in. You can be in the video podcasting space. You can be a clinician. You can be a coach. You can be a doctor. And as soon as you go online, you feel like you're not doing enough.
Correct.
You feel like someone else is further along. And that's why we have to be in a place where we're secure in who we are. And our clients have to be secure who they are.
Correct.
And sometimes, I have a point here, is we have to take a media break. We have to be able to kind of get off of social media, get off of all the things to reset and really hear, as a woman of God, hear the voice of God and get centered in that before we get back on. Because every morning we wake up, I call it we have to have our holy ground. And that's for me, it's the devotion.
Correct.
It's a little stretching. Sometimes it's sitting in silence with my coffee like this morning. Because when we go out, it's the battleground. We don't know what this day is going to hold between you and I, what clients we're going to see, what we're going to walk through in our own personal lives, right? So filling ourselves up in the spirit, mentally, emotionally, and physically, so that when we are out in the battleground and we are kind of going through the trenches with our clients, that we're equipped. We can see things around corners that they can't.
Correct.
So I cannot stress that enough as far as our mental health. Professionals, our coaches, that where we are right now, we can be able to have conversations like we've never had before, but now we have to take it one step further. We have to lean into the care. We have to show our clients what it looks like. We can't just talk a problem that we've worked our way into.
Correct.
Right? I believe in the 3 pillars, which is my Women Redeemed framework. We have our mindset, we have our inner work, and then we have our body work. And how can we teach people to do that if we are clinicians or coaches or professionals are not doing that ourselves?
Excellent. Excellent. Which brings me to, I sometimes present to people that from a Trinitarian therapy that I do, that there is mental health, mental wellness, and mental stamina.
Love it.
And you got to understand that there are times when you do need mental health, okay? But there's times when you just need mental wellness to go to the gym, just like you need to go work out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Got a personal
so you just
trainer.
got to have that mental wellness, So sometimes and I've told others that this is a person who doesn't need a mental health diagnosis. They just need some mental wellness.
Yes.
They got to take better care of themselves, And then sometimes it's mental stamina, just to stay the course, Like yourself, I've been very blessed and fortunate to work with a lot of individuals that are in the helping professions. So I work with, I'm the counselor's counselor, so to speak. And when I work with those individuals, I present to them, and I respect the fact that they too are changing lives, and that they have allowed me into that inner circle to see behind the veil. And when you are allowed to go behind the veil, it's very important, because I use the analogy is when you go to somebody's house and you see shoes by the front door, what do? Take their shoes off. Take your shoes off, right? And you don't just go in their house and you don't go upstairs. That's their house. And that's how I present it from a clinical perspective, that when you may be in my office, but I'm in your house. And my job is never to tell you what to do, advise, or suggest. The only thing I'm going to be doing is making recommendations.
Yes.
And you decide whether or not to follow that recommendation, because it's your house. And I think that's one of the things that as clinicians, we too can get that philosophy of you're in their house. It's not your job to tell people what to do in their house.
That's right.
I'm old school, okay?
That's right.
You stand in the foyer until they tell you where to sit. And if there's a sofa with plastic on it, you don't sit on that sofa. So now, with that being said, where we are, where we're going, where we're headed, what are you seeing then as some of the areas of mental health that actually are starting to be critical areas? Whether it's trauma, whether it's depression. What are you seeing, though, that our society is struggling with the most at this point?
Well, if you have all day, I could say a lot here, but I'll say a bit in a few. One of the spreads that I'm seeing, and you actually mentioned about being old school, is I'm seeing the Gen X and the millennials raising Gen Zs and Gen X with a baby boomer mentality.
Okay.
So what I'm
Break that down
seeing,
for us.
what I'm seeing in a general standpoint is that we, and a leadership perspective, whether we're parents or leaderships of company, is that we project and that we live in a box. And we have challenges with being flexible. And this is where it leads into mental health. So I'm a Gen Xer, and I'm raising a Gen Z. So I'm stretched every day, and I have to laugh at stuff that in my mind I'm thinking, oh, this would be a little corny to me, right? But I'm leaning into my son's world. When he wanted to play Fortnite, don't you know I had the best pink skins, right? Because if you want to do it, I need to find out what's in it, right?
There you go.
Where in my generation, how my parents raised me was completely different.
Completely.
Right? Completely different. Do as I say, not as I do.
There
Don't
you go.
cry. Give you something to cry about.
There you
no
go.
feelings,
I'll give
right?
you something to cry about.
Yes, right? So I had to do a lot of work and continue to do a lot of work on myself to stretch not only from a parenting standpoint, but working with organizations where we are raising up the next generation,
Correct.
where we're having conversations about mental health. So what I'm seeing is that ripple effect is now we have a generation of, I would say, Gen Zs that are cutting off their parents. And because you don't understand me, you don't want to hear me, we're having earlier exposure to pornography, to
Big time.
a lot of predatorial things through Roadblocks. My son played Roadblocks. So I'm seeing a lot of things where I'm talking about, in particular, Gen X and millennials don't know how to deal with this because we haven't dealt with our own stuff.
Correct.
And that's where you and I are kind of getting into that conversation about self-care, mental health, mental wellness, or just going to the gym and taking care of ourselves, because sometimes people walk in the office, and if I'm going into my hairdresser and I'm seeing my hairdresser don't got her hair the greatest, and I think you're going to take care of me, they
sure
judge us as well.
Yes.
So in many ways.
Correct.
So when I think about that, so I'm seeing that there's a trickle effect in how we're leading the next generation. So we're having a different level of mental health issues than we had in our generation, because there is a living online. There is a, relationships with AI bots. There is a talking to, and checking out how to talk to your parents and write this letter. There's different challenges. So I'm seeing that foremost. And then secondly, I'm thinking what we're coming up against again is this generation, in particular Gen Z, that they feel misunderstood by us, and they don't feel like we really care to understand their world, which now is creating another disconnect.
Correct.
So I think the mental health issues that are going to continue to come up is going to be different as we're raising up our kids. So that's one. And then the other bucket I'm seeing is in the context of relationships. We're slapping mental disorder diagnosis on people that have relationship issues.
There you
You
go.
can't be in a toxic relationship pattern or toxic church environment and try to cover these types of things up. And then you go to a therapist, well, I have anxiety or I have depression. No, you've been living with an abusive husband for
Correct.
10 years.
Correct.
Right? So I'm seeing, and I know I'm a jaded because this is what I work with. I'm working with the Gen Zs and I'm working with women. So that's what I'm seeing in my world, is that a lot of women want to fix something else without dealing with the core problem. We can name a lot of problems like anxiety, depression, PTSD, but we're not naming the wound. And sometimes the wound has to do with childhood sexual
Correct.
abuse,
Correct.
or with dealing with, I'm so used to this abusive partner because I haven't dealt with my childhood sexual abuse. So then I'm trying to perform, I'm trying to fawn, I'm doing these other things, but yet I'm coming to a therapist because I have to show my partner that I'm working on my anxiety or my controlling issues, right? When it's really a relationship issue, it's not a mental health issue. A mental health or mental disorder is a result of the environment
Correct.
of what she's in. So those are the two big buckets that I see are the challenges.
And they're very big buckets. Okay. And which is why I also say we got to look at the social, which is the relationship aspect of dealing with the issues, because we don't always deal with that. And you bring up that dynamic between the Gen Zs and I have one of my interns, he's a school counselor. and had him on the show, and him and I were talking about what is he seeing in the school system. Okay, and I coined a topic called parental hijacking. Okay, and I kind of want to have you kind of give me your thoughts of it, because for me, parental hijacking is what I see with parents who, and let me preface it with this: one of the most difficult and heart-wrenching things is to lose a child as a parent.
Yes.
Okay? And the parental hijacking part, though, is when I see and hear kids say things that I'm going to harm myself, I'm going to do this to myself. And immediately it hijacks the parents to let things go that normally you should address.
Yes.
But because of that fear and because they're saying it, and that's, as clinicians, we do take that very seriously.
Yes.
When someone, specifically a young person, talks about self-harm. However, I'm also seeing that a lot of young people say it as a way to get what they want. And it's not necessarily to get attention, it's just to get what they want.
Yes.
And then as a parent, it's very difficult to maneuver, navigate, and go through that maze, because you don't want to do nothing. And like you said, old school is, well, if you're going to do it. You know. But now, because of social media, because of all the things, and because we are seeing that it is the second and sometimes third leading cause of death among young people,
Yes.
a lot of parents don't know how to navigate that. And therefore, as a result of that, parenting is becoming very lax, and we're letting individuals get away with something that you should not. I know he said what he said, so that means you're going to let him choose to do whatever he wants, live whatever lifestyle he wants. Don't say anything about his behavior, because we have to understand as parents that I can love the person unconditionally, but that doesn't mean that I accept the behaviors unconditionally.
That's right.
Okay? So is there a way that you can also speak to that before we kind of come to an end?
Sure. Two things.
Okay.
And the first thing is, I agree with you. I have not experienced it firsthand, but I witnessed it with my parents. So we lost my eldest sister, who was murdered in a toxic relationship. And I remember sitting in the church at her funeral, and it was the first time I seen my dad, baby boomer, cry. And I remember that changed me. And it changed me because I don't know what it's like to lose a child. And as a child myself, when I saw that happening, I just saw that he changed after losing our sister Carmen in a way that was fundamentally shifted his life forever till his death. So I can witness and understand from a deep standpoint a parent's challenge with losing a child. But on the other hand, you are exactly right. Because we're in a different generation, and a lot of the parenting issues that we see in the sense of the Gen X or the baby boomers or millennials is that now there's a certain judgment that's happening on the Gen Zs and even the alphas, that they're too sensitive, they're too soft, these words that I'm hearing from our generation. So then that's where the lapse, well, then I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to hurt their feelings. So I'm seeing this from a lot from our parents. But what I would suggest is that it's an arc. That it's not a black and white, that I'm not going to do nothing and I'm not going to use my own parenting skills that probably don't work. But I'm going to be curious and I'm going to lean in and understand their world. So I think the most important things parents can do is give them consequences, name the behavior, stay away from naming them. So learn parenting skills and being open to that, because sometimes our approach can also provoke isolation in our own home. So that would be the first thing. And the second thing is stay consistent. Stay consistent, letting them know that you love them, that you see them, and also that there's consequences and there's concerns. So, but parents can't do that unless they've done their own work.
Correct.
And if they have the education and the knowledge, and it doesn't mean they have to come to a therapist like us, that is something where they can find credible resources online, and they could be able to name things and frame it in a way that they're, and I'm raising a teenager, to raise their teen or to raise their son where they can hear it.
God bless you.
And you know what? And I think it's a gift. And I do think it's a gift because I have language and skills that my parents didn't have with me.
Come on.
Right? So my son was so happy to see me this morning. He said, I missed you, Mama, and I love you so much, right? So there's a good relationship. So I don't believe that, the teens, because they're teens, yes, they're going through hormonal challenges, but I believe how we show up in those moments is going to show the little girl in me.
Yes.
So when I get challenged or if he's having a bad day, so I think as parents and leaders, the more we do our work, I'm stuck. I know my stuck point. If I kind of go into my unhealed self, she's a 14-year-old girl who put her heels in, right? So I can't let my 14-year-old girl show up with my 14-year-old son.
Right.
So that means we have to be aware of where we're stuck at, where our wounds at, because it'll also get re-triggered at the stage that we're raising our kid. So in that stage, language, giving them consequences, not be afraid to have conversations, not be threatened if they have attitudes or they
Correct.
shut us down. So we have to be secure, emotionally mature, have language, but also know when our feelings are hurt, it's not to necessarily go to our child and say, you hurt my feelings, because we're
Correct.
getting on their level. But we hold them responsible later on about how you spoke to me, about how you dealt with this conversation. In our family, we talk with respect. And in our family, even if we're in an emotional state, we use our words and say, Mama, I really want to talk to you about this right now. But right now, I'm feeling a little frustrated. Teach our kids language because we know the language.
Excellent.
And I model that because my son has the language because I model that for him. I'm frustrated, son, right now. I'm not going to talk to you about that. I'm also modeling that, but we can't do that if we're afraid, if we're scared, and we haven't been able to look at ourselves as parents, as leaders of raising this next generation. Now, I could probably go on and on, but I'll kind of put the pin in it right there.
which I'll add to that, it leads to parentification.
Yes,
And
yes.
we don't want them to think that they are the parent.
Yes.
So I got to have you back, okay?
Yes.
So with that being said, in closing, you talked a little bit about the hurt and the pain that you experienced personally, okay? And with that being said, can you just kind of give us insight as we close to how hurt and pain has led you to where you are, but also how it can help other people instead of stagnate them?
Absolutely. Every time I walk into a room with a client, Carmen, my sister, is in that room. So when I think about not only the pain and the tragedy and the trauma that my family went through, being raised by baby boomers, we don't talk about it. No one leaned in and said, Janie, how are you doing with this? You lost your eldest sister. We didn't talk about it. We didn't address it. And there are some people in my family that are still wounded. You can't talk about it, right? So when I think about that, that has fueled my mission and my purpose. And I have a Woman Redeemed program that's birthed in Carmen's legacy to help high-functioning women, just like myself, be able to deal with toxic relationships, to deal with their trauma, because they can be, having access, having worked with 90 Day Fiance and working on projects right now with Terry Crews. So I have access to a lot of celebrities, and they have the same challenges everyone else has.
Correct.
But
Correct.
they have more shame because they are public facing. So when I think about the programs that I've done, it's been birthed out of hurt, but now it's purposeful. So we all have walked through painful moments in our life. We've all had these pivotal moments in our life. But are we going to let it define us, or we're going to let it drive us to be able to help someone else? But we have to do our own work first, because there are a lot of people who are still leading from pain points that it looks like they're leading from purpose points.
Correct.
But you can know the difference. So what I would suggest is that when we take the time to invest in ourselves, we understand, how did Carmen's death affect me? How did an abandoned wound get lodged into me? How did that focus on choosing the wrong people to be around me? Because we're either going to let a wound lead us, or we're going to let wisdom lead us.
Correct.
And our wisdom is not going to come unless we've done the work.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. Well, Dr. Janie Lacy, thank you so much. I look forward to having you back on Matters of the Mind, and it has been a blessing to have you. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure.
You've been listening to Matters of the Mind, a podcast that focuses on matters that affect the mind. I'm Dr. Rick Adams, licensed psychotherapist and professor of psychology and human behavior. Come, join me on the couch as we discuss matters dealt with, matters dealing with, and the matters that we avoid. Contact us with questions or comments at mattersofthemindpodcast@gmail.com.